be basically like your foam core construction. It's not going to be, it's going to be heavy enough when it's all put together where it's not going to go anywhere. I mean, you're going to have, if you count them off, you're going to have 700 pounds in panels, you know, and a couple hundred pounds in your countertop. But definitely lightweight enough to not need any serious footing underneath.
So you screw into the base end of the panel, is there some wood under that column or something?
No, we actually use a, and that's just for a temporary, we use a real coarse thread, almost like a home screw. Like a light concrete screw. It just kind of goes in there. Well, actually, we put a little L bracket and then put it on there, sure. Basically, what that's doing is just holding it to the base to keep a straight layout on there, you know. Basically, you're laid out. Just like any mason or concrete guy, you can string a line. You can shim the bottom if you have to. But with just a couple shims, for every connection, you come out with about a coffee can. So for this whole system, you probably get about 2 bags of panel mix. And it's the same panel mix that these panels are made out of. So when you're grouting these together, you're going to get the exact same mortar joint color that you made the panel out of. It's the same exact mix. You're really not going to have to worry about your joints matching up or anything. But if you like to go around, throw a couple shims in here and there before you go to tuck point it.
Can you use another, your own different types of grout?
You could use your own types of grout. The panels are going to come out with the grout that matches this. So you'd really just, I mean, you could for inside of here, if you ran a little bit short, you could use any type of concrete or type S mortar inside these. But we're going to give you the actual grout to fill in these and to make all your joints. In some cases, if you don't, a lot of guys prefer to do their countertops level on top, okay? Depending on, you know, everybody's got their own preference. Some guys like to put it, if it's outside in a certain area, you want to put a little bit of pitch on it, you know what I mean? But you want your basic top of your system to be level. So if you're going on a sub base that isn't level, you'll see outside these units, we always pick your lowest point to start, okay? If you pick your highest point to start, you're going to make it level, and all of a sudden, if your patio that you're going on has an 1.5 or 2 inch pitch, you're going to have a 2 inch joint on the bottom. So if you start on your lowest point, these panels cut so easily, you can order an extra bag of grout. You can, if you know what you're going to do, you're going to know ahead of time what your base is looking like if you're bidding this job right. So what you can do is cut the bottom of it at the angle of the actual base that you're going on, your foundation. So if you start with your lowest point, you might be cutting from here to there. You lay them out on the ground, say you got an inch pitch. You go from nothing to an inch. You cut the bottom of the whole panels 1 inch off at that angle, okay? Just because you want to keep the base level doesn't mean you still can't put a little bit of a crown on top of it. You guys know this, you guys are concrete guys. A little bit of a wash on there so it'll actually run off the water. You know what I mean? You don't want your water sitting on your top when you go to do your top. So basically you see how fast this goes together. Your first time cutting out the cutouts and everything, you might take an hour to try to lay everything out properly and do everything so you're not screwing up a panel, you know. And it's always, you can always cut it a little bit smaller and then just trim it a little bit if you're worried about that. But a lot of these kitchen systems that we carry also, everything's got a 1-inch lip on there. So you have an inch on each side to play with. Not that you want to use that up, but you know, a lot of your inserts, the better ones, have a good lip on there. So after you're done with the layout, you figure out exactly where your sink's gonna go. You figure out where all your implements are gonna go. And you lay out your joists to fit everything. Now say you're gonna get a sink here. You're gonna need another joist in the back or in the front probably. You know what I mean? Depending on what it's gonna be as far as what size sink. If it's a small little sink, you might wanna throw a couple in here and there. We build, and basically you can do anything for your base of, this is just for the show today, but this would be your base of, you know, putting in to hold the back of, this is a drawer system that's gonna go in this one that has a big base that's like, so it has slide out drawers and everything. You can do the same thing here if you have, some of these are just hanging doors. Some of these are doors that are mounted right into the foam, mortared in and done. So what we, just to go back with our layout though, if you cut the bottom of them off, you're going to cut off your concrete finish on the bottom of them. So that's what the extra bag of grout would be for. You lay them just like you would a brick or a block. You put a little mortar down, lay them down. If your cuts are on, you won't even see that joint. That joint will just look like you laid that stone out at the angle and did the pitch all the way up. All right. So once you're actually at this point here, and see, we really didn't even have to use the base, but just to push against it a little bit, you know, keep everything straight, and everything else looks like it's ready to go. And this foam is not like, you guys are looking at it, looking at the yellow and saying, oh, this is like great stuff. Not like that. This foam is actually reverse engineered from the cold storage buildings. The buildings that they would take these pre-metal, this metal, fabricated metal, sandwich it, and then blow this structural foam inside of there. And this foam is rated for structural walls. So you can go 30 foot tall with this stuff if you really want to. So for this application, you're overkill really, but you can't be overkill when you're selling to the general public. You know what I mean? All right. So you got a question?
Yeah, so the foam is urethane.
Yes.
How about it being flammable?
There's a fire retardant in this foam
Okay.
to up to 800 degrees. With some of these grills, they will sell you a heat shield, and they'll do that in any cases because a lot of times people are putting their propane tank underneath it. So your normal grill is already, like a lot of these inserts are going to ask you, do you want the heat shield? Well, the only place you really need the heat shield is right where your grill is sitting. You know what I mean? So all that is an extra thing, and the heat shield is good for anything on the other side under 150 degrees. So with your insert, we would always recommend if there's a, you know what I mean? You're going to be saving money and time building this thing, and a lot of people, if they want to put a propane tank underneath there, they're going to need the heat shield anyway. You know, because just the grill itself, say it puts off 300 degrees underneath it, you're going to want to protect the propane tank. So we do recommend that you put a heat shield in there. We actually, for direct contact, in this case here, say this was your grill, we give you a couple feet of 4-inch Surwool ceramic-based insulation. It's just like the stuff you see like on the rat rods that they wrap their muffler pipes. It's like muffler tape.
Right.
So we give that for direct contact if you're going to have that anywhere, but this foam is good for up to 800 degrees.
Right on.
Any other questions? So at this point, what you would do is, you would set your rebar everywhere, okay? And then grout in your corners everywhere. Get everything put together, grout in your corners, and if you make the grout a little bit wet, you'll get a little bit of seepage out here, so your tuck pointing is going to be a little bit less actually, you know? So, just a little bit of basic masonry skills, you can put this thing together relatively fast. And then from here we go with the dirt rock. This is the point where we start putting the dirt rock on. Once we get this is where we're going to put our sink right here. What's our sink layout?
We're from South Louisiana, of course, it was a huge flood in our city. And our project just got totally flooded out. So, my question, like, almost everyone had to rip out all their cabinets. You know, a lot of even the outdoor ones, they got all torn
Right.
out and removed. So, so the answer is no, there is no problem with water.
Yeah, this is a water repellent foam almost, you know what I mean? It's basically not gonna take on any water at all.
Right. Okay.
So, and then that helps along with a couple of these panels all were made for the show, you know what I mean, that we just did in Louisville, Kentucky. And some of these don't have the finish on the back of them that we're actually gonna send out with them. So this finish on the back is almost like a, see the back of these black ones here. This is like a, it's like a paintable bed liner almost.
Right.
So it seals the back of them also, you know what I mean?
Rubber membrane.
Yeah, but it's basically what it's doing is it makes it easier for, like if you do a build out inside of this, to actually clean it off and everything else. It's gonna be antimicrobial and bacterial on there. So that helps out because inside of a lot of them, you know what I mean, people are gonna store food, utensils, plates, all that stuff in there. We're trying to make it, so it won't take on anything. So now, we also carry these joist hangers, which is just a basic 2x4 Simon joist hanger, but some of the hardware stores don't, you know, normally carry them on hand that we found. So we actually, if you know, when you're buying the kitchen system, we're going to offer them in different lengths, in different configurations. But a lot of guys can take this and say, okay, you got 4-foot panels. If you were to add 4 more 4-foot panels here, this would be an L kitchen, 10 foot by 10 foot. 2 4-foot panels together with just 2 32s on the end is a 7-foot 8 kitchen, you know. So there's different layouts, but this stuff can almost be configured that if you chased it around with matching panels, you're gonna end up with any kind of, almost any kind of layout that you want, really. You can kind of do different setups with it, but it's engineered to lay out and work with itself. So at this point, we can cut our Durarock.
Can you flip them upside down?
You can, but what you have to do if you do that is the bottom lug on these is a 10.5-inch lug, and these are 3 8-inch lugs. So if you did that, you would just have to keep putting your 8-inch lug on the bottom.
So everything could be upside down, or you could flip it upside down, but then everything has to be upside down.
Then everything has to be upside down, you know, which is no big deal. You just have to make sure that your 10-inch lug would be on the top then if you did that. You just can't flip them over on top of each other.